The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists. Gabriel D. Vine from Future Rant.
Hello, Internet. Hello, posterity. And hello, Bitcoin all-time high.
Jimmy Song, Bitcoin developer.
We're doing great today. I think everyone's going to be very happy. Would love to see a higher all-time high.
Tone Vase from Liberty Life Trail.
Sup, everyone? Glad to be here. Sell everything.
And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. It's hot in this suit. Moving on to issue 1. Issue 1, Bitcoin price, $4,909. It's another all-time high for Bitcoin. As you can tell, if you do a search on Google in the mainstream media, Bitcoin price is getting crazy. Bitcoin climbs to another all-time high. If you bought $100 worth of Bitcoin a year ago, blah, 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 blah. And Gabriel D. Vine, what do you think? Is this it? Is this the Bitcoin all-time high? Or will it go higher?
Well, I have been saying for a short time now, about a week, that I believe that we are actually nearing a fair value for Bitcoin. Now, of course, this is a completely somewhat irrelevant concept. I know that, it's something that's based on, intangibles, fundamentals. It's something that I've been thinking about for a while. And actually, I really always enjoyed Aesop Stability. This is a person who has been creating charts for several years. And basically, he just takes the trend, the long-term trend, pops them out onto these charts. He's been making rainbow charts for a long time where, we're in the middle, which is yellow, and then lower is the lower frequency colors, like red goes down to red, and then it goes higher into the, higher frequency colors. And basically, if the chart is in the yellow, you're at a more close to fair value. If you go over, then the situation is overbought. If undervalued or oversold, and it's been really very, very accurate. Things dipped during the bear market, the long 2-year Bitcoin bear market. The price was dropping even below the rainbow, below the I guess it was red color or something at the bottom. Yeah, I'm not Aesop Stability, AZOP, and it was undervalued for months and months and months and months, couple of years, and in my opinion, as I've been saying, Bitcoin is totally undervalued all year. 4,000, I started to think, okay, maybe as Aesop's charts started to go into the yellow, I started to think, okay, now we're somewhere near fair value, and I really think that now finally, with the censorship resistance. 75 billion or whatever we are in the market cap, starting to feel like we're maybe more getting, the market is kind of pricing in the value that Bitcoin is giving, and it's accurately pricing in the technical challenges ahead, like fungibility and scaling, while still recognizing the incredible store of value and an amazing consistency of the market, as well as resiliency, or resilience in the risks of the hard fork and sort of bouncing back. In my opinion, I think we're just kind of coming into maybe a short-term bubble. Cliff High, who does linguistic analysis on internet traffic, has specifically indicated that his data, a short-term high of 68.88 before he is claiming his data shows a 68.88 price, and then a massive drop, something around 40-ish%, which would actually take us, I believe, back to thousands. And I wouldn't be surprised to see that at all. So I think we're probably heading into a short-term bubble here that's going to correct back. But the mid four figures, I think, is a really good, really great place for us to be, and a really healthy pricing. And I think we're starting to see something that is accurate to the offering here in the market price.
It's hard to call a top for a thing with no top. We'd just like to ask everybody to give us a thumbs up and a share. We've got around 500 viewers. If it's your first time here, please subscribe. We talk about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency almost all the time. Jimmy Song, what do you think? Can Bitcoin go higher, or is there something magical about 5,000?
Well, it's always a psychological point, but I'm still of the mind that that there are multiple drivers of this run up. One, the halving from last summer is still like getting, people are realizing there isn't quite as much supply anymore. So that's causing the demand to go up. I also think that there's been a lot of chaos, and Bitcoin is proving to be more and more anti-fragile. Whenever there's chaos and disorder, price seems to be going up. There were multiple things that have been happening this week. I think Bitcoin Cash. There's something called Bit Gold. I don't even know if that's worth talking about, but there's 2x drama. Segway's obviously on the network and everything else. All these things, they cause a lot of price action, and oftentimes to the higher side. So it really depends on what happens in the next few weeks. But as long as there's chaos and disorder, I think Bitcoin price will keep going up.
Tone Vase, Bitcoin is the anti-fragile honey badger. There's chaos in the world, and the halvening happened. Half the Bitcoin mines in the world shut down. Are you going to bet against Bitcoin?
Hey guys, yeah, this is a really interesting development that's going on right now. And I'm debating, do I want to do screen share right now on the price of Bitcoin, or do I want to wait till, the prediction or story of the week? Maybe it's a good time for me to like save the prediction for something else, and I will do that screen share. And I'll just briefly talk about my view on the price. I know I did my economics show yesterday where I talked about it in detail, but a lot more things just happened. Okay, so look, as weird as this is going to sound, and this is probably going out on a limb, I don't see 5,000 this week. I just don't. Like right now, if I was an active trader, which I'm not, I would be looking to take my profit short term, okay? I still think we're going to break 5,000 in September, but I don't see it happening. We're about to go into a 3-day weekend. Banks are about to close for 3 days. There's going to be a lot less activity. I mean, us Bitcoiners don't really have lives, but some of the people that run companies do, okay? I'm not going to talk about my personal indicators here, but this is a significant top that's happening on Bitfinex right now today. I mean, I still want to see a reversal candle. We are looking at 49.30 right here on Bitfinex. This should be, this is the daily Bitstamp, which hit 49.35. I just don't see 5,000. Like I know this sounds absolutely crazy, and normally I'm logical, and I say, hey, you wait for the reversal candle, you never guess the top. And I'm not telling anybody to short Bitcoin. But what I'm saying is, I'm looking for a top between right now, this absolute second, and 49.75. So I'm only looking at about $50 more of upside. I could be totally wrong before the show ends. We could be at $5,300 by the time the show ends. But right now, this seems to be completely overextended to me on every time frame other than the weekly time frame. The long-term weekly time frame is the only time frame where I am still bullish. Every other time frame, from daily across multiple exchanges to the 4-hour to the 1-hour, they all seem extended. They all seem due for a short-term pullback. So what am I looking? If I'm right, and this is a big if, like I probably wouldn't even put much money on it, but I am looking for a top literally right here at 49.75. I am then looking for prices to pull back over the weekend and into next week. How far can they pull back? Well, I don't expect it to pull back lower than, let's say, 4,700. Maybe it can go all the way down to 46, 4,500. Like, we could fall here. We have met all of my targets. Like, I have no more targets. And we have a 5,000 round number that we're on the verge of crossing, okay? So I am looking for a pullback to that 4,750, maybe even lower, over the weekend and into next week. Then sometime end of next week and into middle of September, into later in September, I am looking for 5,000 and beyond. But right now, if I was an active trader and I caught this bull run, I would be looking to take my profit and be very happy. You can always get back in, but I would wait for a pullback here. Everything is just skyrocketing, and I think that the buying is on the verge of being short-term exhausted.
All right, there it is. Tone Vase calls the top. Everyone can buy in now if you're using tone as a counter indicator. Let's move on to the exit question. Gabriel D. Vine, this time next week, higher or lower?
This time next week, September 8th, higher.
Jimmy Song.
Higher.
Tone Vase.
Lower. I mean, I have to go with lower here. If you asked me 2 weeks out, I would have said higher, but next week, lower.
And the answer is higher. The problem with technical analysis is it can't predict the future, only the past. Moving on to issue 2, SEC. The SEC warned this week on Twitter, investors, beware of scams involving initial coin offering related claims. Specifically, the SEC was talking about First Bitcoin Capital, whose stock went up 6,000% after they announced that they were flirting with the idea of an ICO. Also this week, the World Crypto Network hosted the San Francisco Bitcoin Meetup, where we had 3 lawyers, and I grilled them on the ideas of SEC, Bitcoin, and legality. Jimmy Song, will the ICOs last forever? Will the ICOs last forever? Or is this the beginning of the end for free money for everyone?
I can't see it lasting. I mean, the current situation is just so extremely frothy. I mean, but that said, I don't know how much more froth there is. I mean, but it can't last forever. That's for certain. Whether last like from years from now, I don't know. And that speaks to sort of the market appetite for asymmetric bets. I think in general, a lot of people like asymmetric bets, especially the kind that can get you 5-6x returns. And in many ways, lotteries sort of tap into the psyche, right? It's this idea you can just invest like $1 or $2, but get a huge return on it. I mean, this particular ICO thing, it does have some supply demand issues. There tends to be a limited supply, and people want to get in on it and get a ton of money. There's a lot of greed on both sides. I just can't see it lasting forever. But that said, I have no idea when it ends.
Tone Vase, when will I be able to buy my own private island?
Well, I don't know. Let's hope by 2020, by holding on to a couple of Bitcoin. I see the ICO boom is completely coming to an end. I mean, some of the things that are being posted now are just ridiculous. Like, it's getting way out of control, and all of these. I mean, I like calling them scammers, but all of these people that want to print their own money, they now have a better model, and that better model is forking Bitcoin. It's just a better model because I did watch that panel with the lawyers, and like, they don't know anything. Like, no offense, but they just don't, because nobody knows anything, right? Because there is no law, and it's not their fault. It's just completely unknown. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so I can say crazy stuff like all of that shit is a security. Like, I don't care what they think it is. To me, it's so obviously a security that the SEC is just probably dumbfounded, going, how can these people be so stupid? And I think a lot of these ICO people are going to learn and it's just bad. I think that whole model is about to disappear because it makes no sense from any angle. I think the future will be more and more creative ways of forking Bitcoin without damaging Bitcoin. And we talked about it on this show. I remember Richard Hart was on. I forgot what show exactly it was. This was weeks ago, where I said, in the future, in the near future, everyone is going to try to fork Bitcoin, and they're going to change the mining algorithm so that the fork of Bitcoin is not actually competing with Bitcoin for the miners. They're going to start, attacking altcoins by using their proof of work algorithm so that you're competing with another altcoin. And that seems like exactly what's starting to happen. Now, I don't care for these airdrops anymore, but I think the ICO model is about to go away. But I can't believe it was with us to begin with. I always thought it was the dumbest thing in the world. So we'll see what happens. I really do think it's about to go away.
I'm still enjoying my free laptop from the last airdrop. Could just ask everybody to give us a thumbs up and a share. We have 750 viewers. I think we could break 1,000. Gabriel D. Vine, more ICOs or less?
I'm going to say less in the short term and more in the long term. We're at an interesting point here where definitely one full footfall into the transition into a new crypto world. And the SEC is kind of bewildered, I think, by this. The type of innovation that crypto enables is just so wild and so different than what has come before, the counterparty laden infrastructure that the SEC is accustomed to regulating. So this first footfall, as mentioned, is just kind of the first explosions of innovation, and as Jimmy and Tone pointed out, mostly scams. And the SEC, of course, it's their job to point these things out, and it's true what they say. I'm kind of a little bit more interested to see what the SEC does when not only is there this explosion of financial innovation, but also their budgets are getting slashed because of cryptographic money standards gobbling up the huge portions of the world economy and bankrupting governments. So that will be maybe the second footfall when it's just hopeless. They're still in this position where they think they're super powerful. So it'll be fun to watch them flailing around in complete irrelevance at that point. I'm looking forward to that.
All right, let's move on to the exit question. Jimmy Song, what happens next? Will there be another explosion of ICOs, perhaps on other platforms, perhaps more encrypted, more secretive ICOs, maybe on Lisk and Waves and Rise and Economy and all these Stellar, all of these platforms? Or will the SEC warn and crack down this industry? Is it going to get bigger or is it going to get better?
Well, I don't know if either of those will happen in the long term, but I will say that once people start losing money and they go crying to the SEC, that's when they'll act. I think before then, they're only going to look for cases of really, really obvious fraud, like somebody like, embezzling funds for a Lambo, something like that. Until then, I think we're going to see them just sort of be hands off. They are sort of a normal government entity in the sense that they react, not proact. So that's what I expect.
Tone Vase, bigger or better?
Wait, what is that? Bigger or better? What do you mean? Oh, and like in the future? I mean, there'll be more of them. I don't think they're going to have much of a relevance. I think all of this is going to get standardized. All right, look, guys. If you actually have a business and you actually have a CEO, within the next year, you're going to be fully regulated by an SEC or perhaps some kind of a global body on, ICOs, right? Like you're not going to be able to do this a year from now. So there could be more of them, but they're going to be regulated. They're going to be registered. Maybe the SEC will be too slow, but will there be more? Sure. Will it be the same wild, wild west with no, with no guarantees on these things? No, that's not going to happen. I mean, there will be accountability added into the space, and the regulation would mandate that. And if the whole, unless, there is this big ICO bubble and like Ethereum implodes, which I've been waiting for it to happen, and then they'll all just go away, and then everyone would go screaming, and then the SEC would regulate it, but then nobody else would do it, right? Because kind of like the housing crisis, like the regulators came in, they made a Dodd-Frank Act to stop everything that was done in 2005 to 2007, but by that point, nobody was already doing it. Like, it was over. Like, enough people lost their jobs in the financial world that no one was going to do that same bullshit anyway. But all this heavy regulation came in, and now it's actually bad for the ecosystem because no one was going to redo the same mistake. So that could also very likely to happen. All right, I'll leave it there.
Gabriel D. Vine, do we get bigger or better?
I don't understand this question. Bigger, what?
Will there be more ICOs, or will the SEC be successful in limiting the number?
I don't see how it can be better. I don't see, maybe Gabe can find a way for it to be better. I don't see how it can possibly be better. The question is it bigger?
Well, you yourself did say, there will be standards in the industry that will develop and mature over time. So if that could maybe be considered better, but certainly bigger regardless. I think probably things are going to get more wild as things get bigger. There will be less ability to control it, but then, things in the industry, maybe some norms will come about and people will develop some things. So yeah, it's not looking good for better.
The answer is bigger. It's going to get much, much bigger. For every person that gets into Bitcoin, there's a person that gets into name an altcoin that doesn't own Bitcoin and doesn't care. They only care about name your altcoin. There's going to be more of them. They all need to get rich quick, and they heard about Ethereum. Moving on to issue 3. Issue 3, the creator of the world's first Bitcoin fuel pump. As you know, gas stations should accept Bitcoin. Plans Lightning support. What does this mean? This means that the idea of microtransactions is moving from a world where they'd be useful to a world where they'd be super useful. Get ready for microtransactions. Meanwhile, on Twitter, Jeff Garza disagrees with me. I said that if Lightning Network is too centralized for you, you could use Bitcoin and pay greater fees, meaning that the Lightning Network would be useful for paying for coffee, which doesn't exactly need to be anonymous, and the Bitcoin network could be used for houses, Lambos, and questionable activities. Tone Vase, is there a future for Bitcoin in micropayments and the Lightning Network?
Well, what did Garzik mean by that reply? Like, it makes no sense.
I think he meant to disagree with me. He follows up and says more. I can go to Garzik's reply.
Please, I would love to see his reply.
Garzik says, referring to myself, he says, no apparent acknowledgement that high fees are pushing users away from decentralized layer 1 towards the more centralized options. The problem is exacerbated by lack of mature level 2 options, leaving centralized websites as the best choice to avoid high fees. So Garzik seems to be saying that the core developers and the Lightning developers have entered into a conspiracy to drive up fees on the Bitcoin network to force you to use the Lightning network, which is then centralized and not as good. I think that's his argument.
I'm getting such conflicted reports. I'm getting that some of the core developers actually hate Lightning Network, and they don't want to see any level 2 scaling, right? Meanwhile, here's Jeff Garzik saying that all that the core developers want is to push everyone onto core 2 scaling. Look, there'll always be other options, right? Look, if Lightning isn't solving the job, and you don't want to use Lightning because you feel it's too centralized. Now, me personally, I believe that Lightning is going to be more decentralized than Bitcoin is today. I believe that Lightning will be more anonymous, then
That's not what Jeff said, though, Tone. Jeff was saying that the level 2 stuff isn't mature enough, and users are getting pushed towards centralized alternatives like private companies.
Obviously, it's not mature enough. I mean, we just got Segway. I mean, maybe if Jeff didn't fight Segway, we would have had it 6 months ago, right? Like, it's like you're complaining that, you know, how come, you know, there's no highways for my car? Well, the car was invented yesterday. We haven't had time to build the highway for it yet, right? I mean, you're complaining about something that literally is just now going into testing. Like, it's completely crazy, right? They were, like last night when I was watching the mempool, the size of the mempool was 600 transactions with half a megabyte waiting to be mined on the next block. Meanwhile, we were all told that the blocks are too full a year ago, right? And here we are yesterday where the mempool is literally half empty, and it will get completely empty within 5 minutes, right? This is complete crazy talk. All right, so am I, you know, looking forward to microtransactions? Personally, I am not. Personally, I don't care, okay? But I know there are a lot of people that are dying for microtransactions, okay? And these people were promised, and I just had this debate. If anyone watches, you know, Freedom's Phoenix with Ernie Hancock, I mean, I literally was like debating him and Davy Barker over this, because they were promised microtransactions. And my argument was, who promised you microtransactions? And they say, well, Bitcoin promised us. And I'm like, how is that possible, right? Just because a couple of guys promised you microtransactions 5 years ago, and they built their businesses around microtransactions, and the current code couldn't deliver it, and it still can't deliver it for another year, it doesn't mean you know, throw out the decentralization of Bitcoin and hand it off to a couple of clowns to program. I mean, this is ridiculous. Now, look, I think microtransactions are useful, but they're not needed. Censorship-resistant value transfer is what's important, not microtransactions. Microtransactions are a nice plus. So I'm expecting to get microtransactions within 12 to 18 months. I'll be happy. I'm not expecting everybody to start using it. It does make sense for gas stations to use it over most other industries, but gas stations are not going to rush to use Bitcoin because they don't know if it's legal. Nobody does. All right. So I'll leave it at that. I mean, the gas industry is fairly regulated, and they're going to want to be very, very clear, because something like, you know, some gas station that isn't mobile, that isn't like Exxon, you know, that isn't a big boy, they may not want to take a chance. Hey, what if we start accepting it, and then like some regulator forces us to shut down every gas station for the next 3 months while they're figuring out what we're doing? So it's not as simple as it sounds, guys. When there is one little mom and shop pop accepting Bitcoin for gas, that sounds great. When it's a big company with like 1,000 employees, it's not that easy anymore, right? It's not like some libertarian CEO like Patrick Byrne running Overstock.com. If you're a real corporation with real investors and real accountability, you're gonna be a little bit careful about what you're doing down over there at the pump, because they're gonna say, well, what if someone anonymous is using Bitcoin that came from a bad transaction at your pump? I mean, it's not that easy, guys. It's really not.
And
All right,
allow me to play devil's advocate to Tone. Imagine that you're a gas station. Imagine you're the company that makes gas. You're the ones that told us about credit card fees. You put the sticker on the pump, and then you told people how much money you're spending every time they swipe their card. Sure, you popularized the cards because they're great for your pumps. But now you're thinking to yourself, Saudi Arabia is having problems. They're not making as much money from oil. What if you started selling your oil for Bitcoin, a commodity like gold that actually goes up in value? You could save Saudi Arabia. You could save the UAE. You could future-proof these countries, with Bitcoin. It is possible. Just like everyone to pound that like button, as Adam Meister says. Let's move on to Gabriel D. Vine, the future of Bitcoin. Micropayments?
So before I get to micropayments, I'd just like to say that for at least a year now, if not 2 or 2.5 or 3 years, Jeff Garza has been a troll. He has been very clearly against the vision of Bitcoin. He's for centralization. He's a faker. He's a liar and a cheat and a troll. I'm assuming the CIA or somebody gave him a visit and said, "Hey, we're going to kill your kids unless you make this blockchain tracking company scry and do what we say, or you're dead." Or they said, "Hey, 20,000 Bitcoin or $50 million, then just say these trolly things instead of the truth." And he's just basically been lying for several years. And what he said to you is total bullshit. As we can see, on the Bitcoin network is not that volatile. It's fucking obvious. There's the dude, I can't remember his name, but he did the big analysis a couple of months ago where he proved nearly conclusively that yes, these are spam attacks. And come on, they drop off in the matter of one block and they just stop, and there's like no traffic, as Tone pointed out. And then suddenly, as soon as there's a politically convenient need for it, the traffic on the Bitcoin network, goes through the roof, and there's a massive, I mean, come on. There isn't the natural usage of these miners are sending transactions to themselves that are totally inefficient on purpose, and then they collect the fees if the spam attack isn't quite as expensive. So that's what's really going on. It's an attack. It's a coordinated attack with spam side, rhetoric side. Garzik and the other tools are there, and smart people aren't falling for it anymore. So you shouldn't even pay attention to what this fucking troll says, Thomas. You're the man. Regarding microtransactions, I think that they're Tone lacks imagination. He's definitely illustrated that on the show numerous times. However, he has a very sharp mind for things that are actually going on in the present, which I may lack. So regarding the vision of microtransactions, the idea there is, of course, today, they're not of that much use. I agree that it's not really something that many users need or people need. But I think that when the machine payable web, which Lightning is one of the things that is kind of necessary for that to take off, we have bots transacting tiny amounts. And what you do with those software, automated software tools is use them to create incredibly liquid markets and incredibly fast market penetration where we maybe are not able to do so today. For example, for bandwidth or storage, things that we use, large data centers and sort of do things by hand, and you have kind of human beings looking at spreadsheets or looking at maybe analytics data, say at Google, and we could maybe have decentralized systems where bots are paying each other several Satoshis in order to contract services from each other at a layer that's just way underneath anybody. And when a human being comes in and wants to contract usage out of those, you're kind of drawing into that pool, which is reacting instantly to market demand forces.
Jimmy Song, micropayments for movie rentals, gas stations should take Bitcoin.
I mean, I've never, I know it's like really sexy to show people, hey, I'm going to send you like $5 in Bitcoin. And it's like, I could do it for a penny and you could be on the other side of the world.
Magical.
Yeah, I mean, it looks cool. It plays well. And you get sort of like a nice reaction from people usually. And they go, oh, I get it now. But really, they don't. They don't get it, right? Like that's just one aspect of it, and that's the medium of exchange aspect. The real magic of Bitcoin is that it's a really good store of value. And whenever you spend a store of value and it goes up, you are going to regret it. I mean, I spent, I don't know, like $40 on beef jerky like 4 years ago, right? Like, and it cost some amount of Bitcoins. I could probably get like 20 pounds of jerky for the amount that I spent on beef jerky 4 years ago. Yeah, this kind of the magic of sound money. It makes you want to save, and that's what Bitcoin is. It is a sound money, and with sound money, you're gonna want to save it. And there's this fiat money that you're gonna want to spend instead. And I think that's what most Bitcoiners realize after a while. Yeah, you'll get like a couple things from Amazon through Purse or something, or and you know, be like, oh, okay, well, I got a discount, whatever. Oh, I could pay for this this coffee here. I can pay for a hotel room. I can pay for a computer, all that stuff. But that's not. I mean, you end up regretting it very shortly after, just because of the price rise and because of the way that Bitcoin is designed. You know, it's got a very strong network effect where if more people are into it, the more valuable it gets because of the limited supply and all these other things. So as a result of that, the medium of exchange, while it has to be there because you need to be able to liquidate your Bitcoins, it's not nearly as important as people tend to think. And I mean, I respect Jeff. I think he's right in the sense that, yeah, maybe, you know, like the point of sort of Lightning was supposed to make scaling better or whatever. And if it's centralized, then it doesn't have the exact same properties as on-chain or whatever. And he's right in that sense. It's just, you know, like that's not a very big use case. I mean, it will enable certain things and people may want to transfer value over the Lightning network. But I don't know, personally, I just don't see that as a very important use case. Store value is much more important.
Yeah. All right, go ahead, Tom.
Can I just jump back in here for a second? Okay, so let me just, I mean, while you guys were talking, I thought about it a little more. Let me try to explain something. Micropayments is not a technological problem before Bitcoin or after Bitcoin, okay? We've had micropayments 10 years ago, okay? Just because the credit card companies are lazy and aren't doing anything. Remember, the function of a credit card is to print money out of thin air, okay? When you pay a business, the Visa is creating that money out of thin air. It's not being borrowed from anyone. Visa is creating money. When you pay the credit card bill, Visa cancels that debt. It's the reason why the credit card is charging fees is one, the insurance of that transaction, and B, basically their operational cost of printing money out of thin air. When I have Project 5 for my cell phone bill, I pay for my data usage by the penny. That's a microtransaction, okay? I mean, maybe if they wanted to, they can charge me by fractions of a penny, okay? All these businesses have to do is like coordinate. We now have Apple Pay, we have Google Pay. Samsung is having their own pay. I know these payment systems don't coordinate with each other, but there is no technological barrier that is stopping Apple Pay from communicating with Google Pay, and then all of this shit settles once a month, once a week, and automatically deducts it from your bank account to the penny. Like there is no technological barrier here.
There is, and you're missing an ingredient of the puzzle. You're still thinking of the parties doing the transacting as human beings or large companies or even small companies. These are entities which can settle on the weekly, monthly basis. However, in a highly decentralized system, a network of tiny bots, each one controlling a small resource, tiny resource, not a data center, say a single computer somewhere, or a little one vehicle, or how about a flying insect bot charge its electricity. These are the situations where microtransactions make sense. It's the tiny atomized networks which don't currently exist and can't exist.
Gabe, I'm with you, but this is a different debate, right? I mean, we can have a whole debate whether that stuff needs to be decentralized or not, right? And we can, like, you're right. If it's decentralized, then yes, we need a decentralized money for a decentralized, operation. But this is a debate for a different topic. whether all those things need to be decentralized. But I just wanted to point out that there is no technological barrier for micropayments in our current day-to-day life.
I want to agree, but I also want to say that it's about the length of my relationship. How long should my relationship with the parking meter be? If my semi-autonomous apartment on wheels, which is constantly in motion, which is paying, you know, $4 for parking, it's moving on, it's paying $4 for parking somewhere else. It's in fact moving with the parking, because remember, parking is now on a wave. It's being priced the way they price Giants games. If the Yankees come to town, parking goes up. So all of this needs to be, how long is the parking meter going to wait to get paid?
But we already have that.
Minutes, not hours. The parking meter needs money. I'm going to be gone.
Right, but again, that there's no technological barrier, because like right now, like most of them, a lot of
trust and length of relationship. Bitcoin is instant. You don't need to trust anyone.
No, but again, like I'm giving you an example. I pay for my cell phone internet instantly, right? They just deduct it at the end of the month based on they aggregate by the penny.
That's the difference. So you pay for your cell phone monthly. I pay for Bitcoin instantly. It transfers.
But why? But
move.
But
I mean, I'm going to agree with Tone here. Like it's yeah, sure, the time frames are a little longer, but is that really a huge innovation?
Right, and the parking and we all have and all the parking meters are becoming apps on your cell phone, and they just deduct from a credit card that you have connected to your cell phone at like the end of the month of all.
But now, like, let's imagine it's not a parking meter. Let's say I could rent a shovel, and I could rent a shovel by the hour, and we know how much damage I'm doing to the shovel, and we know when we can replace this shovel so we can use it the most efficiently. Imagine the most efficient usage of the planet enabled by very small payments.
Well, I mean, is that a huge demand there? I mean, like, there's no market for that as far as I know. I mean, you could go rent tools by the hour at Home Depot, but I mean,
and this is also like saying that you need to get paid by the minute from your employer instead of once every 2 weeks, right? I mean, my argument to that is
I'm not sure that I needed a million songs in my pocket. I think I could have a million songs in my pocket, and then I did. And I did it for video, and I think I'm doing it for money now. And I don't think I'm going to stop for any, do I need it reason? Like, do I need a million photos? No, of course not.
You need a compelling reason to switch. I don't think this is a compelling reason to switch.
Hey guys, like I will say that if your micropayment is in line with censorship resistance, and then my best example is, I don't see how Netflix can go into the continent of Africa without Bitcoin. There's just too much credit card fraud. I don't understand why they haven't adopted Bitcoin yet in Netflix, so that a QR code pops up and someone pays it and they watch the show. So that kind of use case I absolutely see, but that use case is more for censorship resistance than it is for micropayments, even though you would be buying your shows, oh, this show isn't that popular, so it only costs 20 cents. This show is more popular, it costs $1. Now, there is a micropayment use case there, but the priority is still, we can enter, a country with rampant credit card fraud and don't care, and we can sell them our service.
I think we need to develop a way of measuring time. And I think that's what we're buying, and that's what we're selling. Time. Let's move on to the exit question. A long time ago, I was going to prove micropayments to Jimmy Song. So first of all, I was going to do this. You could donate $20, or you could donate a Lambo worth of dollars. We'll check in that later on the show. Second of all, we're going to ask the exit question. It's a forced answer, yes or no. Can Bitcoin be a valuable store of value without micropayments? Tone Vase.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gabriel Divine.
Of course, yeah. Micropayments are a wonderful innovation that are going to enable, it's going to be a flood of invisible transactions.
Running out of time, yes or no? Jimmy Song.
Absolutely, it already is.
All right, and we've got 1,000 viewers, which is good because we're moving on to issue 4.
Might even be a better store of value without micropayments.
F2Pool, Reneges, Bitcoin Pool, polls, Segway 2x support over the hard fork. That's right. You can say no if all the core developers do. You don't need to have the 2x part of the hard fork. What do you think? Gabriel, D. Vine, do we need the 2x hard fork?
No, and we haven't needed a hard fork at all ever. The Bitcoin Cash, Bcash hard fork was unnecessary and totally stupid and useless. And the Segway 2x would also be totally useless. This is just an attempt to usurp power from a decentralized, spread out network of devs that don't have that much allegiance to any one particular idea. They just choose to work on a project and donate their labor to something. And, you know, jerks that like to control other people don't like that. So they're trying to fight it. And either very naive or ill-meaning corporations came together in New York and decided that they wanted X and Y. And when the people that donate their labor to the project don't want to do that, they are like crying. And F2Pool sees the way the wind's blowing. So this is just a useless project. I don't know whether it'll happen or not. I was certainly wrong about the hard fork in August until they specifically announced Bcash. So yeah. Of course, it's not necessary. It's bullshit. It's total bullshit. We don't need it. We may do a hard fork in 18 months or 3 years, 5 years.
Jimmy Song, yes or no, 2x hard fork?
Well, so I'm of two minds about this. I think you know, the people that signed the agreement, I think some of them at least will follow through. So I think in that sense, a hard fork is inevitable. Whether or not it's good or bad for Bitcoin, I think I have definitely switched my mind on this. I see chaos and disorder as good for Bitcoin. If you look at the price of Bitcoin before the Bcash hard fork, it was around 2,700. The combined value of one Bcash token and one Bitcoin token, that's about 5,400. So we've doubled over the past month. Okay, that was a month ago, guys. 2,700 a month ago. And now the combined is about 5,400, 5,500, somewhere around there. So that tells you what you kind of need to know, which is that, you know, chaos and stuff like that, it correlates very well with Bitcoin price. So I kind of want the hard fork to come. In that sense, you'll have sort of communities that are competing with each other. And I think that's a good thing. Competition will bring out the best. Let the best coin win. I think that's okay.
Tone Vase, chaos is good for Bitcoin.
I'm gonna go the other way. Go ahead, Gabe. You want to get back in before I start?
I was just gonna say, wow, sounds like Daniel Kraus convinced Jimmy.
He didn't convince me. I think about a week after August 1st was when I was like, wow, this hard fork actually was good for Bitcoin. And I don't know if you can really argue differently. I mean, pretty much everything, price, sort of progress and development, all these other ways, it seems to have created something better. So I don't know.
I go the other way here. I mean, this chaos has already cost me enough hair over the last 6 months. I really don't want to go through this again. But yeah, I know, Jimmy, you also have a unique skill of all of our followers, like, loving everything you say and then instantly flipping on you. That's what's happening right now, once again. But anyway, no, I go the other way here. I don't think chaos is good for Bitcoin. And the reason why the price has gone up so far, so fast, is because everyone was in this like panic and fear mode. And instead of Bitcoin having its like, you know, slow and steady rise, we get these, you know, bursts of euphoria when we defeat the big blockers, and then we have another, you know, it gets overextended, it gets exhausted, it falls, it finds some equilibrium for slow advancement, and then again we slow down because of controversy, and then we go up again. So I'm not a fan of this. I think more and more.
Why can't what you just said happen with 2x? Why can't what you just said happen with Bitcoin Cash? Why wouldn't that happen with 2x? Sort of like fear and trembling before, and then like euphoria after.
I know. No,
a house divided
I'm not
against
saying
itself
good.
cannot stand.
I'm not. I'm not saying that it's good, right? Like I would rather not have to deal with it, right? Like I really like it's I really appreciated something like Eric Lombroso said when he was on your show, and when he said, I want Bitcoin development to be boring again. Look, I want Bitcoin price to be boring again. You know, as popular as my price analysis videos have been these days, Bitcoin has completely taken over my life over the last 6 to 9 months or a year. And I would rather have the Bitcoin price be boring. I remember there was like a couple of videos that I've done, and I literally said, nothing is going on in the price of Bitcoin. I was spending more time on like, you know, S&P 500 and oil than I was on Bitcoin because it was boring. I honestly want to go back to that. Like I'm not happy when all this chaos is happening, and I would rather have Bitcoin price be boring, and you know, maybe explore some other hobbies in my life besides this. Like I'm not looking forward to more internal debates. I want to defeat this 2x hard fork, and the sooner the better. I want more defectors, and clearly Wayne Chung explained that he's not a defector. He was only supporting it in order to get Segway in, which was the theory from the beginning. A lot of them were signing it to save face. The only reason why I personally never said that publicly at the time, because it's not really saving face if everyone is making fun of it. So I didn't want to endanger the saving face, you know, meme by making fun of them for it. I let them be. But now that it already happened, it's okay to say it. And more and more of them are going to realize that the moment they push for a 2x hard fork, the price will dip, and then it'll go back up. And I don't think it's going to happen. But even if I'm wrong, the blueprint is already here. Bcash isn't going anywhere. And 2x will have even a smaller push because they don't have, I mean, unless everyone, I mean, I think they lost. I mean, when Bcash split, the Bcash undermined no 2x. This shows you how these people are not very bright. If the two of them would have united together, this would have been a complete disaster for us. If the big blockers of Bcash would only have been able to work together with the big blockers of 2x, they could have actually caused damage. But right now, Bcash is slowly becoming irrelevant. And the more irrelevant Bcash becomes, the less people are going to take no 2x seriously. And the more Bcash stays relevant, the less of those same people will jump ship to 2x because they will be seen as hypocrites. Like, there is absolutely no good thing. And this goes to show you how the smart people are coding Bitcoin and the fools continue to try and fight it. And they could, I mean, I couldn't, it's like I'm at a loss for words, and I'm insanely happy about that situation. I'll leave it there.
There's no reason to stay on a sinking ship. If your company is supporting the 2x hard fork, you have to ask yourself, does your company have any technological morals? Are you going to do the right thing for your community? Or are you trying to kill the very project that brings you your money? Oh no, you'll have to update your application from Bitcoin to the Lightning Network. At least there'll be a Lightning Network.
It's not just morals, right? Any company that's going to stick with the 2x hard fork, their technological expertise is going to be questioned. I mean, their CTO is going to be questioned. Does he even know how to code? Does he even understand Bitcoin? Like not their morals, their technical expertise will be hugely questioned.
You know, study hard, bro. Exit question. Will there be a 2x hard fork? Yes or no? Gabriel Devon.
Wow, Jimmy seemed really confident when he said it was going to happen. I'm going to say no. It's going to fall apart before they do it. And the Bcash took its thunder.
Jimmy Song.
I definitely think it's going to happen, and I want to say that you know, when Bitcoin is boring, it's usually like slowly dipping, and it doesn't slowly rise. It does sudden rises and slow dips. or I mean, sometimes it'll have sudden dips too, but like that 2 or 3 year bear market when it was really boring, I hated it. And I welcome chaos and disorder. I want some volatility. I think that's when Bitcoin sort of finds its footing and grows. It's like a hydra, right? Like anytime you cut off one head, 2 grows, and it just becomes this like incredible monster of strength and ferocity. I go for that.
I love it, Jimmy. You sound just like me, actually. This is what the things that I say about the drama. So this is fantastic, actually.
And of course, during the show, someone did donate. They scanned this QR code and they gave me $5,000 for Tone to shave his head. So now Tone has to shave his head, according to the chat. And if you
Wait,
he really got a Bitcoin?
No, if you believe that, I've got a bridge to sell you. But I do have podcasts.
Shouldn't Tone get the $5,000 for Tone shaving his head?
So far, the $5,000 is only a rumor. We did get €5 from the super chat. Thanks for your support for Tone shaving his head, which is now some kind of meme on Twitter. I've seen pictures. There's pictures of Tone with a shaved head. Someone photoshopped it. I can't believe it. So awful. But we do have podcasts for the World Crypto Network on SoundCloud and iTunes. All you do is search for it and download it. It's amazing. It's like the audio version of this show. And I want to thank everybody for giving us a thumbs up and a share. When you thumbs up a YouTube video, YouTube recommends it to other people. Then they show up and then they subscribe and they bring their friends. And they bring their friends.
Wait, Tone hasn't answered the exit question. I don't think he...
yes or no? Tone Days.
I'm going to go yes, only because, I mean, there'll be enough defectors from the like the no 2x the 2x guys. I mean, I think the majority will not be interested, but there'll be enough, crazies following Jeff Garza, and Jeff Garza will go off on his own and he'll fork it for maybe no other reason than to make a little extra Bitcoin by selling the thing. I don't know why, but I think it will happen. I think it'll be significantly less relevant than the one we've already dealt with. And we've already had experience dealing with the first one. And I think for the next one, we're going to give it a lot less airtime on the 2x fork like we have with the Bcash. Speaking of shaving my head, I'm sure there will be a magic price of 1 Bitcoin that I will take a Bitcoin and shave my head on camera or have someone shave it for me. But I regret this one decision. A year and a half ago in Mexico at the Anarchapulco conference, not this year, but the year before, someone offered me 1 Bitcoin to bungee jump off of they had a bungee jump on the side of a bar in Acapulco, Mexico. This looks unreasonably, clearly unsafe, but people were doing it. Somebody offered me 1 Bitcoin. We were drinking, so I was already I had a few. I was offered 1 Bitcoin to bungee jump off of this thing, and I did turn it down. Bitcoin was only $400 at the time. I'm starting to regret that decision right now.
Sound money. That's what sound money does.
Sound money, and the end of the show. We're moving on to predictions or story of the week. Gabriel Devine, do you have a prediction or a story of the week?
My story of the week, I think, was some of the hullabaloo around Peter Schiff, who is a longtime gold bug. Actually, his father was an amazing figure in the gold community and sort of Austrian economics. Very intelligent man. I think he passed away, sadly, just recently. I think it was about a year ago, maybe a couple of years. And I think he's probably turning in his grave because of how naive and pig-headed Peter Schiff is being, to the extent that I think that it's fake and that he is just shilling for his company, that he realizes Bitcoin totally invalidates. Basically, it's e-gold. He's got a gold debit card, and it's just totally, he's just basically all of his arguments about gold are, you get to avoid the counterparty risk, but it's cool if my company's the counterparty. So there was a lot of, Kyle Torpy did a great job rebutting him. But what I'd like to say about this is the last time I will ever mention that individual, and we should all just ignore this person. He's just going to disappear into obscurity along with his pet rock. which I'm actually bullish gold, but it's certainly not appropriate for the digital age as a money.
And I remain bullish for pet rocks. Jimmy Song.
Well, my story of the week is this. Let's see if I can get it on there. This is Programming Blockchain, a series of seminars I am holding for Bitcoin prospective Bitcoin developers. I will teach them a lot of, honestly, the basics of Bitcoin, like transaction parsing and things like that. First seminar is next week in Austin. Another one will be in LA in early October. I also want to say that I will be speaking at Breaking Bitcoin next weekend. So that's going to be a lot of fun in Paris. I would love to see you guys there. I don't know how many viewers are currently in Europe, but if you are in Europe and you are near Paris, then please come so we can hang out. There's a lot of other really great speakers, Peter Todd, Elizabeth Stark, Jameson Lopp, Eric Lombroso. It's going to be a pretty killer lineup. So totally worth going to, totally worth spending, I think it's maybe 100 or 200 euros to go. So yeah, that's my story of the week.
And if you're in the Paris area and you're not going to make it to the convention, we'll probably have a meetup at a bar in the area after the show, one of the nights or maybe all of the nights of the convention. So check Twitter for that. Tone Vase, the story of the week or a prediction.
All right. Well, I'll briefly mention the price. So when I was calling the high, when I said it's going to be imminent, we were at 49.35 going to all-time highs. I'm looking at Bitstamp right now. The price has now fallen down to 48.76. So I really hope I didn't cause the price drop, which I don't believe that I did. So we'll see if my prediction for today, the high of today, being the high for the weekend, and then we pull back a little bit. My story of the week, as funny as this is about to sound, is actually the news of Vitalik signing whatever he signed over in Russia to kind of build out Ethereum for
Oh, Tone, you're muted.
Yeah, we lost your mic there, bro.
You must have pressed the mute.
Mention Ethereum and lose your connection. That's just the way.
That's right. I think you're disconnected, man. You're not muted. I heard a crackle.
Yeah, I think your plug came out or something like that.
Oh, okay.
All right, some kind of Windows problem.
How about
now? Oh, yeah, better.
Yeah, my
censored for
right.
Ethereum. Bitcoin group conspiracy. This is unfair.
Yeah, my plug came out. Right. So no, my story of the week is actually whatever the hell it is that Vitalik is doing with Russia. And I kind of speculated on this back when we talked about the story of Vitalik meeting Putin. And I was kind of half jokingly when I said, well, Vitalik wants to be friends with Putin because he may have to pull a Snowden. If either Ethereum collapses technologically or Ethereum collapses, due to regulatory pressure, he's got a big problem. So everybody else, left the project that started the project, and the only one that remains is Vitalik. And I think for the last year, I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but the only logical answer here is Vitalik should have been looking for an exit plan out of Ethereum. He's not Satoshi. He's not anonymous. He can't just leave Ethereum because then he would be blamed for what happens to it after. So whatever he's planning on doing with Russia could be a way for him to get out of Ethereum one way or another, right? I mean, if he's going to build out a more centralized version of Ethereum for Russia, he can then step away from Ethereum. That seems like a reasonable gig to leave Ethereum for, and that would completely give him nice immunity from any future, regulatory pressure coming down from the U.S. if you are actually, helping build something for the U.S. government that is obviously going to be centralized. So I think this is actually a serious story. I recommend people keep up with it because that's what I see. I see Vitalik pulling a Dan Larimer and leaving the project to the community. Again, I don't want to start rumors, but this is what makes sense to me. Ever since he started, doing more work with Russia.
Spoiler alert, Vitalik Buterin leaves Ethereum to go home to his home planet. And this QR code still doesn't seem to work. It must be broken. Something wrong with Bitcoin today, but I'll just put that there. You can pause it for later. I'd just like to thank everybody for watching, giving us a thumbs up and a share. I've got 2 stories of the week this week. First of all, I was very much entertained and perhaps even enlightened by watching Chris DeRose with Richard Hart today over on the Richard Hart channel, H-E-A-R-T. They talked about Bitcoin and philosophy and is there free will and what you should do with your life. And it was kind of a part 2 to their previous conversation where it was kind of 2 rich guys who don't have anything to do anymore decide that they should do more than play video games, which I thought was a good base to build on. And now they're branching out. So I would say check that out. My other story of the week is what Jimmy said. I'm going to be at the Breaking Bitcoin convention in Paris in about a week. I'm going to be flying on an airplane for 8 hours, then 3.5 hours with a 2-hour layover in Iceland on Thursday. It's crazy. I'm going to be in Paris. Jimmy says he has a hotel room in Paris, but I hope to meet everybody in Paris, maybe find more couches there. Then I'm going to Essen, Germany. I've got another Bitcoin convention at the Blockchain Hotel. I hope to meet cool people there. Maybe stay with Jason King from Unsung.
I'll be there as well. I'm
Tone will be there. You can stay on Tone's floor. It's already working out for me. Then we've got the Hacker Congress in Prague at Polinzi, Paris. I'm going to say everything wrong. But it's all happening. Jimmy's going to be there. Tone's going to be there. Maybe even Gabriel will be there as I travel through Europe. But we're running out of time. We got to start packing bags and unpacking Amazon stuff. I want to put this code up one more time. If you do send us 1 round Bitcoin, we'll know it's for the Tone Bitcoin Hair Shaving Club donation kit. We'll mark this time down as Friday, September 1st at 2:22 p.m. If you want to send a Bitcoin, we'll put that down. But thanks so much for watching. We're out of time. Subscribe now. We've got the Vortex on Sunday with the Bitcoin news around noon Pacific time. And we'll be back tomorrow with Today in Bitcoin tomorrow morning. Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.